Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Introduction to Web Forms webinar. We're just going to wait here another minute to I see a couple other folks here trickling in, and then we'll get started. All right, so I think we have everyone here, and we'll get started here. I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Ben Ray, and I'm accompanied here with my colleague Keith Garber, and we're really excited to show you some things today here on where we are with the new feature that's been awaited for some time with web forms. But really, before we get started, I wanted to go through a couple items. You're going to see the GoToMeeting control panel there on the right-hand side. I encourage you throughout this to ask questions. Anything you have, we'll do our best to answer them here. If they're not answered, then we'll follow up after the webinar with everyone. But one thing I do want to point out, I'm just looking through the attendee and registration list. I mean, we have customers and prospects from all levels of the organization. So it's not just management, it's not just field users. I mean, we have folks from every level because web forms does definitely affect everyone and will be able to really augment their existing workflow. So again, ask questions throughout this. I think that's really important. That's really what we want to get out of this. So before we start, I wanted to go through a couple items on where we are on the product end. We have 3 new exciting things, and then web forms as the fourth. So the first thing I wanted to actually talk about here is our new map view that we're working on. So what you're going to see is that on the new map view screen, we have the ability to view all of the existing points that are on your map. And what you're going to see here is the ability to filter that. And you actually see in this one, there's actually a polygon that's drawn around a set of points. So this is a new feature. If you follow the community, you may have seen that it is not available yet, but stay tuned for updates on that. My personal favorite part about this is that you can draw a polygon around something and then assign those records out to a user. So if you have some sort of geographical usage or geographical dispatch you want to do, it's easy enough to go in there and draw a polygon around it and assign out those points. So that's really the first thing. And again, stay tuned, follow the community for updates on that. You should see some stuff coming out here in the next month or so. The next thing we're working on is an update to our Android platform. So those of you that have enjoyed the iForm ES solution that we have with the challenge password and the encryption at multiple levels, we are bringing that to Android as well. So this will help for some folks that are working and want higher security, even some of these HIPAA compliance solutions. We're going to standardize that across the board between iOS as well as Android. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about here before we hop into web forms is our temperature probe integration. So we've had a couple customers that have pioneered our first version of the temperature probe that we've worked with. This is by a company called ThermoWorks. They manufacture a variety of different devices, but they have introduced 3 new devices to their suite, and this does require a new SDK, so we will be upgrading to these new devices. And you'll see there's 2 or 3 different types here. The one on the left is a temperature probe, as well as the one on the right, where you can take internal temperature of something, whether it's your water or some sort of food. And then the one here at the bottom is actually an infrared, so it takes surface temperature. So again, if you have maybe like frozen product, or you want to take a temperature out of an air vent or something like that, you can point the laser at it and it will record that temperature. So again, there's been a couple of very cool use cases here, and look for more details coming on that here shortly. So now really to get into the bulk of what we're here to talk about today, which is web-based forms. You may have seen some things floated around the community. We shared some emails with everyone on really what we want to do with web forms, and this is kind of our brand new introduction to show you kind of what's going to be happening over the next year. So here's just a quick screenshot of what it'll look like, and Keith's going to go into that in much more detail here shortly. But just for a little history on the web forms and really how it came about is, for the longest time, our customers have been using their iOS, their Android devices to collect data. And in these workflows, there's a lot of times a office component where someone may need to review something, may need to dispatch something. And when they're in the office and they have to review this, they have to open up their phone or open up their iPad and view the data that's in there and resend that out or review it through there, which is certainly not ideal. If you're already sitting in front of a desktop, it just makes a whole ton of sense to utilize the desktop for that. So again, this is not meant to replace your current iOS or Android solutions, but it's meant to give or basically show you what more is possible with all this. So again, with that, I wanted to hand it over to Keith to kick things off.
Hey, thanks, Ben. So first, I'd like to just go over what we're today's agenda. So today we're going to go over, the current interface, kind of go through some pain points, some of the additional use cases that some of our customers have been using, and along with what they want out of the web forms, some of our current goals, and we'll do a quick walkthrough of our prototype that we've developed so far. Go through the different phases, availability, the summary of this today's webinar, and we'll finish up with some question and answers. So first off, let's look at the current view of the web forms. As you can tell, it's a pretty basic HTML view. Nothing too special. There's a lot of things that you can do, but there's also lots of things that you can't do, such as subforms and dynamic values. So our intention is to replace this. And so with that, we're going to go through some phases later, but let's go through a couple more pain points here. So one, it's just a dated interface. It needs to be, good facelift. It needs a little bit cleaner and sleeker. It has no smart control, so no validation, no dynamic condition values, no page level JavaScript, nothing of that sort. No required fields, so when a user goes in there, they're not required to fill out any specific fields. They're just go in there and enter whatever they want to put in there. It does not support subforms, which is a big part of our platform. No image labels, so nothing to enhance the form. It's not very responsive. Doesn't use lookup. And there are no smart options, so you can't do like dwindling, option lists, or anything like that. So I'm going to pass it over to Ben real quick again, just to go over some use cases that some of our customers have been using.
So I did touch on a number of these here earlier, but I'm going to go through 3 core use cases that we've really seen in our discussions with customers and projects from our CS as well as our sales team. So really the first one here is just in the office. So again, I was talking, it's not meant to be lugging your desktop or your laptop around in the field. So if you are a office worker or have a workflow where an office worker needs to do something, office teams can use the web forms as opposed to their iPhones when they're sitting at their desk and fill out these forms. They will look very, very similar to the current iOS and Android forms with all the logic and everything along those lines. But that's really the first use case. I mean, you can see if there's a lot of typing that needs to go on, it makes a lot more sense to really use the desktop interface to do that. So that's really the first one. Then the next one I wanted to go into is the inspection, more of around the sense of approvals and reviews. So what I was talking about earlier when someone is capturing a record out in the field and then they submit it back to the office. That office worker will then be able to review that record. So we will be looking at supporting assigned records. So as it's submitted, it's assigned back to your desktop, and then you're able to modify that, review that, and if something is incorrect or wrong, you can send that back out to the field, or you can end the workflow or push it a step further in your workflow. So again, this is really beneficial for inspections and audits and things of that sort. And I think we all probably have 1 or 2 use cases that follow this. And the final use case I wanted to talk about is a dispatching workflow. And basically, what that is, if you're not familiar, is the way to take a record from one location and send it over to someone else, similar to taking a piece of paper and handing it to a colleague to fill out the rest of the form. This is currently doable today by logging into the website and filling out a record and then assigning it out to a user. But again, we don't have all those items that Keith mentioned in there. So what you'll be able to do with this is open up a form, fill out some details. Let's say it's a work order or inspection of maybe where you need to go for that day, what work needs to be performed, and then you'll say, I'm going to assign this out to Keith or a specific worker that you have, and they're able to then complete that inspection. Now this pairs really well with the second use case I shared, because once it's completed, it would then need to be reviewed again. So again, we really believe that these cover three of the core workflows that we have. And we actually do want to stop here and actually do a quick poll on which of the followings of these use cases do align with you. So I'm going to turn on this first poll here, and we'll pause here for 20 seconds while people answer. So it looks like we have a lot of people using the approval process. It looks like, I mean, they all seem pretty common from the votes we've gotten so far. All right, it looks like everyone voted here, so we'll close this poll. Really appreciate that information. That's helpful for us to just see, what do these use cases align. It looks like all three of them very much do from the results. So I'm going to pass it over to Keith here to go through some of our goals.
Okay, thanks, Ben. So yeah, let's go over some of our goals that we're trying to accomplish here. So one, as I mentioned, we're redesigning the web view. So we're just giving that good facelift, making it more usability, and just make it look cleaner. The next one is make it more modern and responsive. We want to use newer technologies than just like a basic HTML page. So we're looking into a couple different technologies, and we will be applying that when we develop our web forms. And the next piece is going back to all the use cases that Ben just described, but we wanted to provide an additional piece to a mobile workflow. So whatever use cases you guys have, we want to make sure that we fit those needs. And a couple things that we just want to clarify what aren't our goals. A first one is we don't plan on supporting any hardware integration. So we know that with a couple of our devices, we do scanners and such. At this time, we're not planning to do any of that. Next one is offline capability. This is because of like security and many other aspects, but at this moment we're not looking to do offline capability. We're not trying to, as my last point here, is replace the mobile apps. This really is just meant to enhance your workflow and just make things work a little bit more efficiently. So with that, let's go over a quick prototype. Do a quick walkthrough of what we've done so far. Again, this is very early on, so there's many things are going to be changing, but this is just a quick glance. So the first thing you'll notice on this page is that on the top here you'll have collect, edit forms, manage users, my company. One of our goals this year is to kind of give our whole system a good facelift, but we wanted to start with the web forms because we know so many people want to use it. And so this will be all subject to change, but the thing you want to point out is the collect data tab. And so this is something new that we'll be introducing. And when you click the collect data tab, you'll actually see all the forms that you are assigned to. And so going into the first form here, go into a form. These are all the records that are assigned to you. Keep in mind, since this is not offline capability, the records should not be stored on here like in drafts and such like that. Once you hit done, it will go straight to the server. But so these are records that are assigned to you. So when we go into the record, you'll see that it puts up a much more cleaner view than our previous HTML page. So you got your a couple text fields up here, a date field, your subform data here. And so what we're going to do next is add a photo. And so this opens up a subform with a photo element. As you can see, someone already put in a picture of a dog, put a description next to it. And then now we're going to add a new photo. So we're going to click add, going to hit upload. And so this is pretending that we're uploading a file. Put the picture in there, put in a description, and then we hit submit. And then now you can see like the data is there. We'll hit submit again, and it'll bring us back to our parent form. So much like what we have on the client side, just on the web view. So that's just a quick glance of our prototype. Of course, everything is still a work in progress, and many things are going to change. But we just want to give you a quick view of what we're doing. So I'd like to take a minute here and ask Ben if anybody has any questions or anything like that.
No, we don't have any questions. Actually, one thing I thought maybe you could touch on specifically, you showed the photo widget there. Could you maybe share some details about the signature or even the drawing on maybe how that will work?
Sure. So much like the current HTML view for some of the media, you are going to be able to upload media. As we mentioned before, we don't plan to do any hardware integration, so taking a picture with your camera or anything like that won't be working right off the bat. And so what we're saying is you can upload your media. As far as the drawing widget, we're not going to implement a drawing field. I mean, everyone on the computer has Microsoft Paint, probably do a much better job of editing the photos that they want to do, and then just upload the images that way. As far as signature, I actually touched this based on this a little bit more, but our initial thought is to don't allow image upload just because for data integrity, we don't want people to just take an image and say this is my manager signing this and then upload it and act that's their signature. So we'd like to get some feedback on that, and as the process moves forward, we'll definitely want to hear what everyone thinks.
Okay, thanks, Keith.
Okay, no problem. So next we'll go through why are we doing phases. So to start off, it's a big project. This is going to take probably 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And so we wanted to make sure plan it out properly and get what we need to get done. And at each phase there are different use cases. So we didn't want to bottle up everything and put it all out there at once. Every phase has each customer has a different desire. So we just wanted to make sure things are released when people can use them. And the last point is we want feedback along the way. So as we release the different phases, we just want to make sure people are able to give us what is good, what is not, so we can really build on that to make this whole platform better. So diving right into it, let's go to phase 1. And so phase 1 is really just a replacement of our current create and edit record view. So whatever you're able to do now, you'll be able to do in web forms. So this will support trigger post processing, and you'll be able to edit single or combined records like you can now. It will support subforms, so that's a big upgrade to the current one. Upload of media, so in some aspects you're able to do that now. Except for signature, which I was mentioning before, for data integrity, but again, we'd love to get some feedback on this. Enforcement of masking, and so in the past, you're not able to make sure someone puts in the right characters. So in the new web forms, you're going to be able to do that. So much like the current way it is now, this is really just replacing create an record view. So only company admins will have this right. And then this will be our ETA is end of quarter 2. So we can expect this, in the next coming months. Going over to phase 2.
And Keith, actually, if I can interrupt for a second, back on phase 1 there, I wanted to touch a little more on the only company admins will have rights. So this phase, like phase 1 specifically, is really focused on that third use case that I shared, which is the ability to basically go in and create records on the server side and assign them out. It is you can do reviewing on there because we're going to be able to go in and edit records inside of there. But I think it's just important to see that phase 1 is aligning with those two specific use cases because it is only company admins. We'll get later on to end users and stuff in phase 2 and 3.
Yeah, great point, Ben. Thanks. So we'll move on to the phase 2. So the first one, we're going to, as I showed before, we're going to create a new view and collect record tab underneath the data tab. And so what I'll give you is, if you hit the View tab, it'll take you to the data views page like you default today. So you'll see all your data that you're used to. Then when you click on the Collect tab, you'll go to the view that we showed before, and you'll be able to click on a form and actually start collecting data. So it's much like the Manage and Collect tab on the iOS. So we'll be creating a new assignment called Web Collect. And so users with Web Collect specifically will be able to collect records. And in phase 2, we're going to be focusing on smart control and page level JavaScript. This is really the biggest chunk of this phase 2. This will take the most work. We want to make sure, get as close as to the devices as possible, making sure all the JavaScript and all those features do work properly. So such as the smart control values and such. Then we'll be supporting the image label for Dropbox and Box. And so this is another great way to enhance your forms. And location widgets will also be supported. So if you're using the Esri widget, you'll be, when you click on a record, it'll pop up a map and you can point on a map and say, okay, this is where I'm collecting data. And then we'll also be supporting the location widget where, if you go to Google Maps, it'll say, can we get your location? You say yes, and then it'll pinpoint to where you are, and then that's where your data is going to be collected from. So this ETA is between Q3 and Q4 of this year. So that should be coming out, by the end of the year here. So I'll take a moment here and see if Ben, you have any questions or anything?
No, not at the moment. I think I wanted to dig a little more into the Web Collect and just talk about our reasoning kind of behind that. So right now, only admins can go in and collect records on the web, and that'll happen in phase 1. But there are scenarios where, from a management perspective, you may not want to give all of your users access to fill it out on the web. You may want to say only these users can fill it out on the web, and you want most people to be filling it out through their mobile devices. You want them to be out in the field on site. I mean, if they're filling out through their desktop, they may not be in the right location. So again, that's really our reasoning behind that, and I think introducing that new right will really allow for more flexibility in your workflows and also management of field teams too.
Yep, great point, Ben. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and move on to phase 3. And so in this phase, we're going to be introducing Smart Table Search. So you'll be able to use lookup records, notification on the portal when records are assigned. So what we're trying to do here is to kind of replicate what you're able to do on the device. So you'll be able to see some sort of notification that you have a record assigned. So we're still in the process of trying to figure out exactly what that will look like, but it could be, when you log into your portal, you have a little number next to your username saying you have a couple notifications, or maybe on the collect view. We're still in the process of that, but the goal is to let you know that you have records assigned and something needs to get done. And then also field level encryption. So much like on the device side, when you upload data, all the data is going to be encrypted using your public RSA key. So that's what we're looking into phase 3. We're looking to get this done at the end of Q4, Q1 of 2019. So hopefully end of not end of next year, but end of Q1 of next year, this part should be done. And just kind of going on to what we have thoughts on beyond. And so phase 3 is really just meant to finish up trying to replicate the devices in a sense that all the stuff you can do on the devices, you can also do on the web forms. But a couple other things that customer have brought up is we want to be able to send private or public links to forms. So what this means is when you have a private link, you send it out to a user and they're able to log in and go directly to the form. And then a public link is you send it to the user, they don't need to log in with credentials, and they're able to collect data that way. Another thought we had was also embed forms. So we can give you like a HTML template, and then you just put it into your web page, and you'll have the form there. Yeah, this is all a bunch of ideas, and we love to hear some additional thoughts if you guys have them on what more you want from web forms. Right now, there's no ETA on this because everything is still. We just want to get to phase 3, and then we can work on some of these greater features. So,
And
is there
Keith,
any?
actually one point that just came in here specifically, they're basically asking about like a one-time use link. I think we don't really have to answer that now, but I think it's just something to keep in mind. I've seen like Google Forms do it and other form softwares do it. It's like you disperse the link out and then it's fill out one record and that's it. So I think that's just something I figured is useful to share with everyone else on the call too. That was in the.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that is a great thought. We already have actually a reference ID for that, so we could probably easily apply that to something like this. So yeah, I mean, yeah, keep the ideas coming. We want to know more. So next is availability. So who's going to get this? And the answer is everyone. This is not going to be a product sold separately or anything like that. This is going to be integrated to the platform, and everyone will be able to make use of this. So yeah, simple as that. Next thing is we want to look for early adopters. We really want to get people into the platform, really test it, see if it meets their needs, what needs to be enhanced. So if you're looking to be an early adopter, please let us know. We'll actually be taking a poll here in a second to ask that same question, but we want to get as much feedback early on as possible. Because as everyone knows, when you do a lot more work in the front end than everything else, or in the first part, then everything else becomes much easier later on if we're satisfying needs. So we're really looking for early adopters at each phase. So we'll take a second here, just a quick yes or no. Do you want to be an early adopter? If you want to, then just say yes, and we'll reach out and at the appropriate time to get you all set up. So I'll just take a couple seconds here to let people answer.
It looks like so far we have most people who want to be early adopters, which is definitely what we want. So we'll keep this information into account moving forward and be in touch appropriately as things become available here.
All right, great. Yeah, that's good to hear. We really want people to get into the platform. So just kind of go over what we talked about today. Web Forms is coming out in phases. So phase 1 is Q2, phase 2 is Q3, Q4, phase 3 is Q4, Q1 2019. It is available to everyone. If you want to, we have a community page, and if you want to keep on updated on that, you can just go to that community page. It looks like this, and we try to answer the questions as quickly and put some updates on the web forms as best we can. And then just as a kind of an endpoint, everything is subject to change. Of course, we'd like to stick on schedule. We love to get everything done. We love to, all that good stuff. But things change, demands change. So we just want to point that out that things are subject to change. And to finish up the webinar here, let's just end on some questions.
So I'm just looking through the list of questions here, and we're going to try to get through all of these. So the first one I have was maybe if you could touch a little more, Keith, on how the notifications will work. I know you mentioned it there in phase 2 or phase 3, but if you could explain that a bit more, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a concrete idea of how we're going to implement this. So I mean, this is another thing that we love to get feedback from customers and what they want from us. Because we know we have some websites will give you like a pop-up, like when you first log in, like, hey, you got some notifications. Do you want something more subtle and it's just have like on the top right corner with like a 1 or 2 saying, yeah, 2 records assigned. There's really nothing concrete at the moment. But the point is when you log in, you're able to see that you have something that needs to be addressed.
Okay, no, that's great. That's great. I think that covers it. The next one we had here is the web forms going to be a responsive design? Like, will it work on other mobile devices, not iOS and Android?
Yes, that is the intent. With the newer technologies, that kind of comes inherently, but we'll want to make sure that these do work on mobile devices and work quite well with it.
Okay, great. And one thing I think we got from someone else, I think we want to continue to use the community for sharing that. We were asking how to share any comments or features, but I think the community is where we want to share this because we want to get these ideas out in the open. I see some folks saying they love the embed idea, and we've done that for a couple custom projects, but I think if that's default there, that would be a great addition too. Another question that was asked here, could this be used as a replacement for SurveyMonkey? And I'd actually like to answer that. I mean, that's not the intent. I mean, it absolutely could on there, but I mean, SurveyMonkey has its certain purpose. This is meant to to be in addition to your existing mobile workflows that you have. You have the iOS, the Android. That's for mobile out in the field. But you shouldn't. Ideally, you don't really want to be using this exclusively for just web forms. It should augment or help your existing workflow. We had another one here, so this is a bit of a longer question, so if I need to repeat it, we can. So could you explain if you can assign a form to another user or another record to another user? When the other user logs in, they only see the records that are assigned to them.
Right. So I guess that's kind of how it works on a device. If I'm understanding correctly, so you assign like 10 records to a user, they sync, and then those 10 records are on the device. So essentially, you want to just make sure those 10 records, if they're assigned to them, only show on the web view. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, definitely. I think that's it, and that's actually what we showed in the initial prototype there. So again, there will be some challenges if you're using web and mobile, because whoever gets the record first is who claims it. Similar to how it works now, if you assign it to one or two people, whoever gets that record it's exclusively theirs. So I hope that answers the question. And I'm just looking here and see if we have any other specific questions. I think that's all we have today. So yeah, I mean, we really appreciate everyone's time today on this. This is something we've been planning for, doing a lot of research, and really appreciate all the community feedback we've gotten to date. Again, we want to continue following up in the community. Feel free to reach out to Keith and myself as well. But we would love for everyone to follow up through the community there to get those ideas flowing there. Another note, we actually are hiring on all sides of the company. So from the sales side, the CS side, and the development side. We know everyone on this call, I mean, is very dedicated to the platform and following things. But if you do know anyone or anyone on your team who's looking for positions, I mean, feel free to contact us, and we can go from there. So again, thanks everyone for the time today, and have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.